In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a style of drawing called Oblique Projection, and this is for 3D drawing. So this works on the principles that if I do a very quick sketch, we have this sort of just flat 2D rectangle, and then we have 45 degrees coming off here. Okay, so just to finish that off. So the angle here would be 45 degrees. Okay, so that's the really important thing. Now we don't have the tools to do this precisely. We don't have set squares. You might have. You can try them if you want. So we're just going to freehand it, but it's quite easy because if you've got 90 degrees, yeah, that's 90. 45 is half of that. Okay, so roughly that's about right. So start off with a very simple shape, just a rectangle or square. See, I'm using a ruler. Draw lightly. Rub things out. There's nothing wrong with rubbing things out, it's a part of the drawing process. And then do your 45-degree angles. The key is making them parallel. So when I move my ruler there, I'm trying to keep it parallel with the line I did before. And same again. I'll just use the thickness of the ruler. There, and then okay, so there we go, we've got our first oblique projection. And rub out those lines. So let's try something a little bit more complicated. Do some steps. Okay, so the lines I'm putting in now must be parallel with the vertical and horizontal lines. Can't just start doing them all at different angles. Okay, so that one there, I've done vertical, same as that one, and then I'm going to do that horizontal. Then I'm going to do the vertical, and then I'm going to do that horizontal. Okay, rub these up. Okay, let's go even more complicated. We're going to do a house. Okay, so remember we're doing parallel lines. So this line here is parallel with this one. Unlike before, we can do a diagonal here, so I want that to be parallel to that. So parallel, if you don't know, means an equal distance. So the distance between this point and this point is the same as from this point to this point, and from this point to this point. If I measured all that, that's all the same, therefore those are perfectly parallel. Now if I put anything on this side, again, we've got to think about the parallels. On here it's much easier. So here, just practice your shading. So here, we're going to go over it a few times, and then as we go down, we're going to put less layers. And so I find holding my pencil high up like this gives me the ability to do quite long, straight strokes. So I hold my pencil up there quite often. So just practice that here. You know, try and be as controlled as possible. You are going to go over, but the less you go over, the better. The more you practice, the more control you will have with your pencil. If you do go over, you can just rub it out because you're doing this quite lightly. See, the other trick is putting your ruler there. I tend to do that just at the end, just to fill in those gaps. Okay, let's do something more complex. So on every corner, that is where you're doing your 45-degree lines. But what do you do if you have a curve? Well, again, just come off the corner. Remember to do parallel lines for all of these. Okay, so I've got vertical, horizontal, and diagonal, horizontal. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is try and imitate that curve. That same curve there, we need to imitate it. go, I'm happy with that. So let's just tidy this up. Okay, so let's actually try and design a product using this method. I'm going to do a camera. Where we've got a curve like this, it's going to gradually get closer to the original line so it disappears. So you might notice when I try and draw some things, I start doing what we call ghosting first. So I'm literally just trying to get the muscle memory going. Be able to create a circle. And when I'm happy, then I start committing to the page. Lightly, because I'm going to have to rub some of that out. But ghosting, I often do it if I'm doing straight lines. I'll do that first, like testing almost, and then I'll commit to the paper. So here's the finished drawing. As you can see, I've added a little bit of rendering, a bit of shading at the bottom, trying to replicate sort of a plasticky feel to the body of the camera, and sort of the reflective surfaces of like the flash and the viewfinder, a bit of shading at the bottom, a splash of colour, contrasting colour in the background, and also some thick and thin lines. So remember that from the previous task where all the outside lines would be thicker. In this case, I've just done them in a marker pen, and the rest of them I've kept pencil. Okay, so the analogy is that if you have a spider, if it was to walk around the corner, would you still see it? If you don't see it, that needs to be a thicker line. Really, pencil crayons don't lend themselves well to this type of drawing. We tend to use markers much more in product design, but we don't have any, so They're sort of a very special type, they're not normal felt tips. So good luck guys, can't wait to see what you do.